Hey everyone, this is our lesson on immunity and disease. So, think about this. Have you ever gotten chicken pox? I remember I got it in kindergarten. Did you know that after you have chicken pox, you can't get it again because your body has developed an immunity to the disease? And immunity is the body's ability to destroy diseases before they can cause damage. And now they actually have a chicken pox vaccine to help you build that immunity before actually getting the disease. So, the way that our bodies run normally is in a homeostatic environment or homeostatic condition. So, homeostasis in an organism is constantly threatened. So, it is like equilibrium in the body. Any little thing can mess this up. So, if you've ever watched Parks and Rec, it's one of my favorite shows. One of the guys on there compares his body to a microchip, and even the littlest piece of dust can throw that microchip, make it compromised because he took such good care of his body and tried to avoid germs as much as he could. So that's what our body is. It's a very, very specifically functioning organism, and very little, teeny tiny little things can make it go completely haywire. And failure to respond effectively can result in disease or death. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other parasites may infect plants and animals and interfere with normal life functions. But we have what's called an immune response, which is a defensive reaction of the body to foreign substances or organisms. So if you can look here, we've got our antibodies, we've got our white blood cells, and then we've got our antigen. And our antigen is what is foreign to the body. So that's what we don't like. The white blood cells come around, the antibodies connect to the antigen. Then the white blood cells specific type are called phagocytes, and they will engulf and digest that antigen to keep it from infecting the body. So antibodies have specific shapes which allow them to attack specific antigens. They attack cells with the wrong antigen or protein, and they tag it because it threatens them or treats them as a foreign invader, so that the white blood cells can then come in and eliminate the threat. Other white blood cells will mark antigens for attack by antibodies, or attack and engulf the antigen themselves, which are those phagocytes. So here you can see we've got a wound, a bacteria is entering the wound, it looks like a splinter, and then you've got the phagocytes that will move in and engulf those bacteria from the wound to keep it from infecting the body. So now let's talk about immunity. So immunity is the accumulation of specific antibodies in the plasma of the blood, enabling an individual to resist specific diseases or illnesses. And there are ways to acquire immunity. So the first one is active immunity. So your own body is actively producing its own antibodies to fight an antigen. So this occurs within a body in response to either contact with a disease-causing organism, or by their products, or by receiving a vaccine. So, for instance, when you get the flu shot is a dead form of the flu virus, so that your body can then learn to fight it, so that if it's exposed to an active form of the flu virus, it knows how to fight it, right? The best way to fight is practice. So that's what's happening here. So it can either be through a vaccine, through someone, coughing right in your face. That's going to expose you to some stuff, or the products that come from organisms that are exposed. So vaccines, again, use dead or weakened microbes or parts of microbes to stimulate the immune system to react, and this will trigger a primary immune response. If the body is exposed to the same microbe again, it triggers a secondary immune response that is faster and more effective than the primary, which is why sometimes after you get a vaccine, you don't feel that great for a couple of days because your body's learning to fight it off. But then if you're exposed to it again, you may not even know that you're really exposed to it again because your body's already taking care of it. The only problem with vaccines, especially for instance the flu vaccine, is there can be different strains available. So for instance, a lot of times what they do to determine the flu vaccine is they predict which strain will be the most popular that year, and that's what they put in the vaccines. Well, if you're exposed to a different strain, you'll still feel the effects of the vaccine. It will not be as bad as it possibly could be, but it will be worse than if you were exposed to the strain that you got the vaccine for. So just kind of keep that in mind. So memory of the immune system, we've got the first exposure to an antigen. We've got the primary response in relative time. So you can see it never actually fully got that high, but it was effective enough to teach the body what to do. Then second exposure, much higher amount of antibody and much quicker for that to occur. So what is the secondary immune response? So this is a more rapid response to the same antigen the second time or however many times you're exposed. It invades the body. The antibody production increases dramatically and in a much shorter time period. And then what do we mean when we say immune system has a memory? So it has a memory because it's able to fight off the same things much faster. Okay, with those subsequent exposures. Ways to acquire immunity. So not just the active immunity, we also have passive immunity. And passive immunity is where your antibodies fight the pathogen that comes from another source. So this immunity is of short duration. For instance, babies receive some antibodies from the mother while they're still in the womb, which is why when you are pregnant, you have to get a lot of shots to up your immunity and to give those antibodies to the baby. But they only work for so long, which is why within the first 2 years of life, babies get a ton of vaccines. Some diseases, such as rabies, are so rare that we don't vaccinate against them. Instead, if a person is infected, they are injected with antibodies for that disease, and this is what is known as passive immunity. We also have what's called herd immunity, and this is a form of immunity that occurs when the vaccination of a significant portion of the population provides a measure of protection for individuals who have not developed the immunity. Herd immunity makes it difficult for a disease to spread because there are so many susceptible people left to infect. There are so few people left to infect because the people that have the vaccine cannot be infected. So this is just a little gift to show you what that looks like. So contagious people can keep it from spreading. And we've got the healthy vaccinated. As you can tell, they're away from the ones that are not vaccinated, and they can't spread it nearly as easily. And here's another one to just kind of show you. You can see how much slower or little the amount of movement of the disease goes with the more vaccinated population. So one that does affect people very often are allergies. This is an extreme body reaction that occurs when the immune system reacts to a foreign substance, and some allergic reactions are caused by the body's immune responses to usually harmless environmental substances, pollen. Okay. The antibodies that form in response to these substances may cause inflammation and could result in the release of a chemical substance called a histamine, and a histamine causes an allergic response. So that's why you take antihistamines to stop that. So if you ever take like an allergy medicine, a Flonase, Allegra, Zyrtec, Claritin, all of those have antihistamines in them. And then we have autoimmune diseases, which occur when the immune system attacks some of the body's own cells. So it doesn't realize that the cells produced are actually cells from the body. They think that they're foreign cells. So that would be like Crohn's disease is one. Myasthenia gravis is one. Multiple sclerosis is one. Lupus, and then fibromyalgia. AIDS is an autoimmune well, it's an immune deficiency syndrome. So it stands for acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And this is a viral disease that damages the immune system. So it can leave the body unable to cope with numerous infectious agents, which is why when someone has AIDS, it's very, very, very critical that they stay as healthy as possible, because now a common cold could actually be extremely deadly to them because their body cannot fight because the immune system is damaged. So many AIDS patients die of other illnesses like pneumonia or the flu. With our increased knowledge of immunity, it's resulted in the ability to donate blood and transplant organs to help those that fight with these issues. We do have major lymph vessels, and those have lymph nodes, which I'm sure you've heard of before, which contain those phagocytic white blood cells, and those will filter the bacteria and the dead cells from the lymphs. So this is important to understand, especially with cancer, because it's very traumatic to the body in any case. But once it gets to the lymph nodes, it can be much, much, much worse and much harder to get rid of. But here's just an example to show you where all of those are. Some other causes of diseases are inheritance, so you can inherit certain diseases, toxic substances, being exposed to those, poor nutrition, if you can't take care of yourself that way, it could lead to your body malfunctioning, organ malfunction, and then poor personal behavior and choices. And then here, if you want to pause this, you can read over some of these notable illnesses, what they call, or